The story that has never been successfully refuted, even though it's now a 5-year-old story, that's clearly a deportable offense. Is there an investigation into that?
You know, I just got advised by a fraud investigator the other day on that. I asked the question, who reviewed the file, and says that there was immigration fraud involved. The statute of limitation became an issue in the last 4 years when this was first brought.
All right, everyone, did you catch that? Tom Homan, the border veteran who actually understands what a sovereign nation is supposed to look like, just dropped a statement that's turning heads everywhere. He's pointing to possible immigration irregularities connected to a sitting member of Congress, and that's a serious claim. For years, rumors about Ilhan Omar have floated around political circles, but when someone with Homan's experience says he's personally reviewed the records, watch, the conversation suddenly gets a lot louder. While Omar continues delivering speeches about constitutional rights and America's founding principles, Homan is focused on enforcing the laws that keep the system functioning. In today's breakdown, we're going to watch how this story unfolds, how Omar responds, how the media frames the narrative, and why supporters believe Homan represents the kind of no-nonsense leadership they want when it comes to border enforcement. Stay with me, because this discussion is about to get intense. Let's dive into the rest.
Here's Ilhan Omar on our immigration system under this president and the job that you're doing.
This is certainly not what the founding fathers of the American dream were thinking about when they said, that when they set out to write the Constitution.
Unlike the Biden administration, we're following the Constitution. We're enforcing the law. We're not ignoring the law. And you're right. The proper, assimilation is important, and it's going to be required. Not only that, when they come here under a legal program, they're required to be self-sufficient. They have to prove they're self-sufficient. So a lot of them, first thing they're doing to get here is get on the public dole. President Trump put his foot down, and like I said earlier, we're doing a deep dive on thousands and thousands of files, and we'll hold people accountable. I'm so tired of them pulling the race card all the time,
right.
Because we're doing this racist. ICE has arrested people from 180 different...
Trump mentioning the Daily Mail reporting from 2020 that Ilhan Omar married her brother to get into the country. This was last week. Take a listen.
Look at their nation. Look how bad their nation is. It's not even a nation. It's just people walking around killing each other. They've taken billions and billions of dollars. They have a representative, Ilhan Omar, who they say married her brother. It's a fraud.
Calls that a fraud. It's a story that has never been successfully refuted, even though it's now a 5-year-old story. That's clearly a deportable offense. Is there an investigation into that?
I just got advised by a fraud investigator the other day on that. I asked the question, who reviewed the file, and says that there was immigration fraud involved. The statute of limitation became an issue in the last 4 years when this was first brought up. Who was president? Who run DOJ? So pulling the records now, pulling the files, and we're looking at it. But this fraud investigator, who I know personally, one of the best fraud investigators in HSI, Homeland Security Investigations, said there's no doubt he reviewed the file. So I'm running that down this week, matter of fact, and we'll see.
It's tremendous that, and according to the Secretary, Kristi Noem of DHS, she said nearly 50% of the visas are fraudulent in this community. That would mean that half the Somali refugees are here in some way illegally. What's going to happen? Is something actually going to happen? Are there going to be people stripped of their visas, deported? Are we going to see that?
Absolutely. Those days are over. Thank God President Trump's in the White House. We're going to look at all of them. We're going to look at those here illegally. Of course, we're going to look at those here under a visa or some sort of, immigration process that are criminals. We're going to look at the national security threats. But those who came through a process that weren't properly vetted, who didn't provide documentation, who slipped through the Biden's weak processes on, giving visas and temporary, whether student visas or visitors visas or whatever. We're going the whole gamut. President Trump has instructed us go down and we're going to deep dive all of this. And we're going to hold people accountable. So yes, there are going to be multiple deportations coming. Absolutely.
There's so many claims of a racist element to this story, and when we're talking about a certain subsection of refugees into this country, but it bears reminding to people that it wasn't very long ago at all that Americans expected that people that came to our country would contribute to the cause, would assimilate to our culture and to who we are. And we're just not seeing that at all in this community. We're seeing a community that's largely hostile to our culture, wants to bring in an Islamic culture into our nation, while doing so and staying vastly on the...
Let's pause and break down what just unfolded, because there's a lot to unpack here. In that clip, Ilhan Omar speaks with clear confidence while questioning the idea that strict enforcement of immigration law reflects the vision of the nation's founders. But critics argue that the United States was built on the principle that laws apply to everyone, and that standard should remain consistent regardless of status or position. Allegations surrounding Omar have circulated for years, and now Tom Homan, known for his long experience in border enforcement, claims he has reviewed records connected to the matter. Supporters see Homan as someone focused on facts rather than political messaging, especially as he says investigators are examining thousands of immigration files tied to past refugee and visa cases. For them, the issue isn't about nationality or background, but about whether the same legal standards are applied to everyone. They argue that if any citizen were accused of falsifying official documents, the system would demand accountability, and they question why public officials should be treated differently. Others counter that the conversation has become highly politicized and shaped by media narratives on all sides. Regardless of where people stand, the debate highlights deeper questions about immigration enforcement, leadership, and fairness under the law. What do you think? Should these claims be fully re-examined, and should public officials face the exact same scrutiny as anyone else? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, hit the like button if you value open discussion, and subscribe so you don't miss the next breakdown.